Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Elite Wrestling's Unrestricted, the official AEW podcast. Tony Schiavone,
Aubrey
and
Edwards.
my longtime close personal friend, Aubrey Edwards. How you doing, Aubrey?
Long time.
Yeah.
We've known each other like 8 months.
Since October.
That's right.
But it's like we've known each other our entire lives.
Forever.
Yeah. I love you, man.
Oh, I love you.
Thank you.
You know who else I love?
Podcast is over. What's that? I'm sorry.
You know who else I love?
Who's that?
Kris Statlander.
Yeah. Hey, Kris.
Yay. Awesome. So today on AEW Unrestricted, we have the Galaxy's greatest alien, Kris Statlander, one of my absolute favorite people to work with. You've done a crazy amount of stuff on the indies, like I think ROH, Impact, Shimmer, AEW Women's Champion, Creative Pro Wrestling, TV Champion, Victory Pro Wrestling Women's Champion. God, this list is so long. PWI's number 100.
That was a mistake because Kairi Sane was left off the list and she was supposed to be like number 9. So I would have been 101. So I wasn't supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to be on there.
So PWI's list of top 101 women. You were number 101. There we go. Yeah. So you're kind of crazy. Like you've done a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, especially for someone who didn't watch wrestling as a kid.
Yeah. I don't know how it happened. I just I feel like it was just kind of like it was the way I was supposed to do things. So I just didn't feel any point in holding back or like trying to find any longevity. I just did everything I could, went everywhere I could, and it got me a lot of recognition apparently. So
Hey, Kris, you started, you were a stunt double.
Correct.
What got you interested in that line of work?
Well, I was in college freshman year at my, the age you're supposed to be in college at, right after high school. And I was there for athletic training and physical therapy. And I finished up my first year, but halfway through I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. I hate school. I'm so done with it. And then I was like, just thinking about like, if I could do a dream job for like 2 weeks, what would it be? And stunt double was the first thing that came to mind because I was a gymnast my whole life. I was just a real big fan of physical activities and being an idiot. So I was just like, I'm going to look into it. So I found a place in Brooklyn called Hollywood Stunts NYC, and I started training there it was a 3-week intensive, and it was over the summer. So I think it was in July, I remember. And the training was 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And I had to drive from out east on Long Island all the way to Brooklyn in morning traffic on the way there, traffic on the way back. So it took like 2 hours to drive one way. So it was like a 4.5-hour drive every single day over the summer. I'd have to wake up at like 6 a.m. to do this every single day. And I was so worn out. And I was the only student. And this like school is kind of just like a warehouse on the river, on like the East River of Brooklyn.
So it's like a wrestling training school.
It's basically, yeah, except it's a lot taller, no air conditioning, nothing. And again, like I was the only student, so I was worn out completely, and I just loved every single second of it. There was not a single day I didn't want to wake up and drive down there. And I finally, like for the first time in my life, I felt like I found something I was supposed to do.
So what is the training like? What are you doing from 9 to 5?
So there's some like stretching, obviously, some warm-up drills and whatnot. But so the first 2 weeks of the training, week 1 was unarmed combat. So so I actually learned how to do like your rolls at Stunts. So I knew how to do rolls before I started wrestling, which is why my first day at wrestling, everyone's like, oh my God, did you train somewhere else? And I was like, no. But so we did like basic rolls, learning how to fall, which it's very different than wrestling. But they were kind of, and I remember, I think it was like my second or third day, they're like, oh, you think you're rolling correctly. Why don't we just go roll on the concrete gravel outside? And I had like bruises all over my back because I wasn't doing it right. And then they're like, oh, let's try it again on the inside. So I had to roll on AstroTurf, which was just right on top of concrete. So it wasn't really anything better after I already bruised up and scraped up my back. And then we were back onto the mats, and I was like, okay, now I know how to roll. But So the first week was unarmed combat, just like your basic fight scenes. Second week was armed, so we learned how to do sword fighting, knife fighting. We learned how to shoot blanks. And the third week was like all the cool fun stuff. Like we did full body fire burns, car hits, high falls, like wire work. When you see people like, if there's like an explosion, you see a person fly back. We got to do that. The air rappel, yeah. So it's like all like the fun stunt stuff. So, but yeah, you're doing that like 8 hours a day, and your body is destroyed.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you're literally on fire.
Yeah, it was. I've been on fire, I think 3 or 4 times, and it is so fun. I think it's
that's
the funnest thing ever.
Do you, for something like this, do you have to sign any waiver or anything
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
injuries?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like, so you trained as a stunt double. What was your first job as a stunt double?
So with Stunt, you actually have to join the SAG-AFTRA union in order to be able to perform them on TV and movies. So I never really got to do any stunt doubling for like an actual TV set. But I did, we had a couple of things come to the school that I got to be a part of, where I did like a doubling for a news reporter at the school. We did this thing, Jerry O'Connell came to the school, and he was kind of doing something for Amazon IMDb. So I got to teach him how to do rappelling, like when you do like the scaling down a mountain type thing. So I got to teach him how to do that. And I was on MTV once. They did this prank show called Ladylike. It was on for 1 season, and I was in the season finale, where it was like a speed dating type setting, and one of the actresses got like obsessed with one of the guys in the speed dating. So when it was kind of like her and the other actress started like fighting, I went up to the person, and I went up to the guy, and I was like, what's going on? Do you know this person? What's happening? He's like, I don't know anything. And then the actress came and it like broke a table over me.
Fun.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's probably not on the MTV website, but it's on my Instagram. I recorded a video of me getting hit with the table. And it was so funny because it was so hard not to just like start laughing at everybody, because everyone was like, oh my God, call the ambulance. Somebody get a doctor. Oh my God, this bitch is crazy. And then it was so funny because right after the girl hit me with the table, everyone's freaking out, and she goes up to the guy that she got obsessed with, and she's like, you want to get lunch? But we obviously told everyone it was a prank and that I'm a professional stunt person. So I did get to do some stuff, but it costs a lot of money to join the SAG-AFTRA union, which I didn't have the time, which I will tell you, by the way, how much it costs. So your initiation fee, once you get eligible to join the union, it's $3,000.
What?
Right.
But then you have to pay another $206 for like your biannual fees. So it's $3,200 just to join SAG-AFTRA, which I am eligible to do, and it never goes away. And now that I have more money, I am considering doing it, but not right now because nothing's happening at the moment. But I do have the money now to do it. So that's why I never really got to do anything for TV. But I am eligible to join the union now.
Sweet. So you got to learn all the stunt stuff. Didn't get to do anything for TV. But then before that, you were a gymnast for 11 years. Did you ever get to compete or travel? Like any opportunities come out of that?
Yeah. I wasn't the best gymnast. I am full 100% okay with admitting that, because I used to be, believe it or not, like the smallest kid in class for a long time. And then like 8th grade, I grew like almost 2 feet. Like I had a huge growth spurt from like 8th to 9th grade, and my body just couldn't really adjust to it. And being tall is not really ideal for gymnastics. So I kind of got super limited and like trying to retrain my body how to do gymnastics. But I did I competed all the time for gymnastics. I actually was on with my club gymnastics, which is like the regular outside stuff. I also was on my high school's varsity team from 7th grade to senior year. which I know doesn't make sense, but we didn't have a middle school team. So so I had to try out for varsity in 7th grade. And I did varsity for 6 years on top of doing outside gymnastics. So just being crazy and like nonstop training and go has just like been something that's been a part of my life for a long time now. And I'm just used to it, which is why I just do like 3-hour workouts now in the garage. I'm stupid.
Well, I covered for many years the University of Georgia gym dogs and covered gymnastics, and I can tell that you're a former gymnast. I just can tell how those girls act.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
Yep.
I mean, they are. They're another breed.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so super athletic and just tough and rambunctious and weird.
Yeah.
So, you fit all of that.
Weird, big time.
That's me.
Right.
So we got gymnast, stunt double.
Correct.
Where does wrestling come in?
So in my 1 year of college for athletic training school, it was in New Jersey. And while I was there, no matter what your major is, you always have to take some sort of liberal arts class. So I took an acting class for some reason. And there was actually a indie wrestler in that class that we became friends with because we were both kind of just like, oh, we don't want to be here, blah, blah, blah.
You're just taking it because it's a requirement.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So we became friends. And at the end of the year, I was like, hey, I'm not going to be coming back to college anymore. I'm actually going to be going to school for stunt doubling. And he knew that I lived on Long Island. And he was like, oh, well, we come to Long Island occasionally to do shows. So since you're doing the stunt doubling stuff, why don't we see if we can like bring you in as a manager or something? And I was like, okay. So eventually, so I ended that I ended school in May of 2014. I'm young, I'm sorry. And I did my stunt training in July of 2014, and then by like September, October-ish, I went to my first ever wrestling show and I was a manager. And they made me get in the ring and do a promo because they're starting this whole women's division thing. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't want to get in this ring. So yeah, so I was just kind of like, they kind of had me, and they knew I could like get a little bit more physical with stuff because I had some of the stunt training, even though it's nothing the same. So I was doing that managing for like 2 years, still not having any clue about wrestling. So from 2014 to 2016, I was like, I was just managing, still not watching wrestling, having no idea really what it's about. And in March 14th, 2016, I went to a Creative Pro Wrestling show because I made a bunch of friends at the place, that one place, BPW on Long Island, and I was friends with them on Facebook, and I saw this Creative Pro place, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to this show, just surprise them, just like be a friend. And it turns out it was a school. We all went out to dinner that night after, and I was like, I think I want to try this. Why not? So I emailed them, and then that was a Sunday, and then that Tuesday, March, what day is St. Patrick's Day? That's the 17th,
17th.
right? Okay, so March, maybe March 12th or March 13th was the Creative Pro show. March 15th was my first was my first day of training. And then I only know that because it was the week after the show. The 15th was my first day in the ring training. The 16th, we did a tape review of the show that happened. And the 17th, we didn't have any training because it was St. Patrick's Day. And Pat and Brian are both Irish. So, so I remember that very vividly. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into wrestling, which makes no sense at all.
Yeah, we all have different weird paths into it.
I know.
Yeah, everybody's got a journey getting here. They really do.
It kind of makes sense that like your path is weird because that's kind of like who you are. Like if your path was normal, that wouldn't make any sense.
I know, but I just happened to find something, and I just apparently am actually good at it for some reason.
So one of the things you mentioned early on in your stunt double training is like doing stunts and falling in wrestling is very different.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything you had to relearn or reteach your body?
Not really. Not that I had to reteach. It's more just like learning I viewed it as learning a different thing.
Gotcha.
So, like, the roles were the same, but doing a fall and stunt is like very like majestic, and like you go down by your knee and then you fall to your hip and then roll to your side and then I'll lay all the way down. And then wrestling, bumping, you just kind of like, gah, you just go. So it's basically, I try to separate the two. And I try to just, I think the biggest the biggest issue with going from stunts to wrestling is strikes, like punches, kicks, stuff like that. Like stunts, there's no contact at all, so you can throw it as hard as you want. You can be a foot away because it's all camera angles. But in wrestling, it's right there in person. You gotta make contact. So it's not. That's been my biggest struggle, was like getting okay with touching someone, which I know is a struggle for everybody, but that was the hardest thing, the hardest transition between those two.
So are you stiff in the ring? I mean, when you hit, do you really hurt people?
I try not to.
Okay.
But I also, when I was training, I kind of had this view of myself, not to like fade out like feminism or anything, but I remember there was always certain things like, it's like, oh, there's the more female way to do an up and over, or you can do it the guy way, or there's more female way. And in my brain, my stupid brain, I related that to like in gymnastics, where it's like, so in each level, there's a certain type of moveset that you have to have, and you have to, if you don't do a specific skill, but you do a similar one that's a little bit easier, you don't start at a 10.0. You would start at like a 9.8 or a 9.5. So in my brain, I'm like, well, if I'm doing my girl version of things, I'm already starting myself at a lower tier than what people are going to be expecting. So why would I do that? I'm just going to go for it the guy way.
Hell yeah.
Guy way. So that's how I took to my training. And a lot of people say I wrestle like a guy more than a girl, which I like to try and think I do, but I just kind of say I wrestle, but everyone at training is always just like, lay your strikes in, lay your strikes in, lay your strikes in. Don't make it look weak. Don't have those crappy little girl wimpy shots. Just lay it in, make it look real. And I was just like, so I apologize to anyone if I've ever been stiff in the ring. That's just how I was told to be. So I try to like tone it back.
Nothing wrong with being stiff in the ring. No, it's not. It's called working snug.
Yeah.
They old school did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're talking with Kris. Yeah, we're talking with Kris Statlander. We're going to talk about the alien and talk about the alien landing at AEW as we continue. So let's talk about the Alien Wrestling's debut on the indie scene with Kris Statlander, who is now with us in her human form.
Hi.
Hey, how did the alien come about? How did all that begin?
So my first couple, okay, well, I guess it was like my first real year of independent wrestling. If you look on Wikipedia, it says my debut was in like June of 2017, which is not true. It was November of 2016, 6 months after I started. And I was off for 2 months because I broke my heel. So, just saying.
So now we can update your Wikipedia article by referencing this podcast.
Thank you. Wikipedia. Yeah. This is me. I tell this to people all the time. They're like, oh, you debuted in June of 2017? I'm like, no. It's been around longer.
Well, let's talk about that heel injury a little bit first.
Okay.
Since we're there, like, what happened? You said you were off for 2 months after that?
Yeah. So the one-legged moonsault that I do off the apron sometimes? Yeah. That was my old beam dismount.
Ah.
So I was just practicing it for fun. And, in wrestling schools are not like sufficient padding on the outside. So I was just doing it so it landed. And I stuck the landing and I split my heel in half.
Like completely in half?
So it was everything was in my foot. Nothing came out.
Nothing spills out.
Yeah, it was all there. But so you know how if you're like chopping wood, you put a wedge in and then you hit that to split it evenly. That's what my bones did inside my foot. So I split my calcaneus bone in half.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Yeah. And
you're only out for 2 months?
Yeah, because I'm stupid. I, I was still working all the time, and I mean only like 2 days a week. But I wasn't supposed to be walking on it. Like, you know how like if you break your ankle, they'll give you like a walking boot or something like that. I wasn't allowed to have that because it was my heel, and you need that to walk. So I needed to be off of it in order for it to heal properly. Also, I was very lucky that none of the cartilage in my foot was damaged, so I didn't need surgery, and I won't have arthritis later in life. So praise the Lord.
Bonus.
But yeah, it was just somehow that's how you know you stick a landing, is that you split it perfectly and you don't cause any other damage to the surrounding tissues.
10.0.
But, I know, right? So my orthopedist, he would always like yell at me because I broke through 3 casts because I kept walking around on it because I didn't have any pain after like 2 weeks. So I just kept walking around on it, and I broke through 3 of my casts on the bottom of the foot, and I had to get it recasted a couple times. But it was pretty much like exactly 2 months, and the day after I got my cast taken off, I was back in the ring. Because that's how like excited I was. And like and I remember I was only 3 months into training at that time. So wrestling was so new to me. And I showed up to every single practice. I sat and watched every single time. I went to every single show, helped out as I could. And that's when my trainers and a lot of people really took notice of how badly I really wanted to do this, because a lot of people, when they're injured, they only show up a few times or whatnot. They usually stay home and rest. But I was there every single day, doing as much as I could, being yelled at to sit down because I was just impatient. So that's kind of, I guess, what proved to myself and what proved to everybody else that I really believed in myself, and that this is something I really am interested in making a part of my life now. So
it's called work ethic, girl. Some people have it, some people don't.
I know.
And there's no substitute for it. How about those for 2 cliches? Well, it's true. I mean, it really is. Coming from the old guy here in the group, it really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so, talk about the alien character, how you developed that. How did that all come about? Are you a fan of Star Wars, Star Trek?
I've never seen either.
Boo.
I've actually just a really big science nerd.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
I support this.
I took every single science class that I could in school, like literally every single thing. I took biology, genealogy, marine biology. I even went to summer school for fun just to take a marine biology class because that's how much I loved it. And in my high school, we actually have a planetarium. So we would take little kindergarten school field trips to the high school to go to the planetarium. But it was just like so fascinating to me. And for like my birthday, I would get at-home science kits because I'm a dork. And so for a while, when I first started wrestling, I went by the name Liza Viero, and I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but my middle name is Elizabeth. And my mom's maiden name is Soviero, so that's how I got Liza Viero. But you know, it wasn't really not working. I was getting work and I was able to do stuff. It just wasn't really like a character that was good. So I decided, like, you know, I'm a little bit weirder than a lot of people realize.
You don't say.
Sure, this is my story. But it's like, I know I'm a little bit weirder and I never really fit in any specific group of people. And it was like when I was in school, like high school and everything, it was kind of like, you know, no one really wants to get a chance to get to know you until they do start to get to know you. And then they realize that you're so interesting and you have so much more to offer than what you just lead people to believe. So in a way, it's almost like you feel alienated from everybody. And I know that's like a weird play on words, but it's kind of like, you know, no one wants to believe aliens are real until someone can prove something about it. And no one cares to look into it more until there's facts to be known or like things to research. So I kind of feel like in a weird way, it's a weird play on how I've always been perceived in life, where like no one really ever cared to get to know me until I had something interesting to say or I had something to offer that interests them. And, you know, that's kind of like what aliens are in a way. So I was just kind of like, why not just play up how odd I am? Because as you guys know me from being around, I just sit around and I make weird faces all day and I just react in the stupidest ways. And I just don't, I have no control over my body sometimes with the things I do. So
wait till you get older. No, I'm kidding. No, Kris, you say that, but really, sometimes when you approach you really don't know what you're going to get.
I know. I like to keep people on their toes.
Yeah, you do a good job of that.
Great. Or like how recently I showed up to the locker room with pixie sticks because I was like, you get your sugar rush, but you're not having the pit of candy in your stomach before you wrestle. Like, who thinks like that? Me. I do. Who gets bulk bags of pixie sticks? Me.
I was actually really jealous of your pixie sticks.
I have so many. I'll bring a whole bunch more.
Please.
I got you.
Yes. We'll just be eating pixie sticks.
Pixie party.
Yay! I love it.
Yay.
Okay. So you've wrestled on the indie scene and you've done a lot of intergender matches, right?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, how do you like those and how have they been received?
There's always people that are kind of like, oh, it's not believable, blah, 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 blah. But like, I'm not like Nyla big, but I'm a bigger girl compared to a lot of girls on the independents or even in wrestling in general. And, I've wrestled and trained with pretty much only guys. And it's like, there's been very little girls or girls come and go from the Creative Bro School. And there have been times where I've been the only girl at training. So I'm so used to training these guys. And I learned not to be disrespectful to any women that I've ever wrestled, but I realized very early on when I was still just wrestling women that I had to be the one leading a lot of these matches to not just make it make sense, but people are just forgetful and, they've been wrestling longer than me. And I kind of felt like I was still the one that was really in charge and like trying to push these other people. And like I said, not to be disrespectful because you don't get anywhere without those types of matches. So every single match I've ever had on the independents has gotten me to where I am today, and I'm extremely thankful for every single person I've ever wrestled. But when it came to being able to wrestle guys, I had someone to finally push me. I had someone that I had to try to keep up with, and I had someone that was gonna take the reins instead of me having to be the one in charge. So It was just a different way. And there's so many more men to wrestle in different varieties in men wrestlers on the independents than there are girls. Where a lot of girls, you see a lot of similar styles and characters and gimmicks, and it's kind of like wrestling the same person over and over sometimes. But with guys, they've experienced most of the time so much more, had so much more variety of matches, and they just have so much different experience and mindset that getting pushed to keep up with those levels and starting to think like that, I started being able to incorporate that into my matches with women and try and push them a little bit more. So now I just have so many different varieties of things that I can do and different ways to be pushed. So I think being able to prove that I can keep with those guys and sort of sometimes outshine those guys kind of has given me my little bit of edge that I guess people fear. And I pick up big dudes sometimes. I've picked up Dan Moff, I picked up Beefcake, which I know some people that are going to be watching or listening don't know, but look at those matches on YouTube. Those are like 300-pound men that I've had on my shoulders because I'm big.
You got mega strength, girl.
I know, it's weird. It's alien strength. I don't know how I do it.
Yes, it is. You wrestled on SmackDown Live a little bit over a year ago.
Yeah.
How did that happen? And how were you contacted about working that match with the WWE?
Well, luckily, trainer Brian Myers, aka formerly known as Curt Hawkins.
Sure.
Big help on any of those, any sort of extra work that any of the Creative Pro people got, anyone in the New York area. And Pat, formerly a WWE producer as well, he wasn't a producer at that time, but unfortunately, we got to do extra work for all of Mania Week. That was actually the first time Aubrey ever reffed my match.
Oh yeah, Shimmer.
Yeah, that was the first time. And in that match, I don't think you know it, but the moonsault that I gave to AK, I like landed on my toe and I like probably broke my foot. but I never got it checked out. So
of course not.
Yeah. So like 2 days so that was, I think, a Friday, maybe.
That was earlier in the Mania week, so it was either Thursday or Friday.
It was something like that. But then one of the next days, I had to wrestle 3 times in one day because Mania week bookings, and then I had to do extra work for Mania and then Raw and SmackDown, and then for SmackDown, I did 2 practice matches because there was an odd number of girls, and then I wrestled on TV. So I wrestled 3 times with my foot like broken,
Jesus,
basically.
Girl. Oh my God.
When you talk about people with work ethic, you talk about me because I have no control. Okay.
You just
nothing
make bad
wrong with
decisions.
that. So did you get offered a contract with them, NXT, anything out of those matches?
So that Shimmer match, actually, that because why can't I remember his name? Canyon was there, and everyone was like, oh, he wants to talk to you, blah blah blah. But I never got a chance to talk to him, so I emailed him back and forth. I've never actually met him, even when I was doing extra work.
He's very tall.
Yeah, I everyone looks the same to me. I have no idea.
True. That's fine.
But so we got in contact after that, and they were kind of talking about like bringing me in for a tryout, but it was more like a formality type thing, and I just wasn't available to do some of the tryouts. And they're like, oh, we're doing the tryouts in London. Why don't we fly you to the London tryouts? And I was just like, yeah, I know. Oh my God. I was like, sure, I'll do it. I think, but I'm only available for these, like, I think I'd be available for the whole thing, but I'd have to be back real quick and stuff like that. And then it kind of just led to be like, I kind of just want to hire you, so why don't we just send you a contract? So I didn't even have to do a tryout. And unfortunately, with timing and everything, I did my background check. And there's a lot of things. I'll say there are a lot of things that you don't expect it to get like flagged. Like there was one time I made a tweet about how my old school got put on lockdown because police thought that a suspicious person was carrying a gun or a weapon at a gas station nearby the school. So my college went on lockdown, but it was just a guy holding an umbrella. And because I mentioned police in the tweet, it got flagged and stuff like that. So it's very strict. Or like there was like a fire burn thing that got flagged one time. So it's like, yeah, it's very like strict. So there was like a decent amount of things that got flagged that was just either like weird, just like out of context things that didn't make sense, or it's just kind of like, but so I told them, I explained like, some of the stuff is stunt stuff. Some of the stuff is like not really what you expect it, what you think it is. It just highlights words. It doesn't highlight the whole thing.
You don't get the full context to it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So when I responded and I was like, hey, everything that you said was inappropriate was deleted. Like, you shouldn't be able to find anything. This stuff was deleted before I think I deleted it and like did like the deleting after I had already had submitted the background check. So it might have done it, but that was just poor timing on my part. But then they were like, okay, we'll get back to you. It could be a while though. And during that while period, AEW snuck a little way in, and they're like, we want to book you for a dark match. And then I was like, oh, okay. So I did that, and then the contract offering with AEW happened, and then I sent an email out to WWE, and I was like, hey, unfortunately, I have these other I have another offer that works with my overall life schedule a little bit better, because I'm also a massage therapist, and I would still be able to do that. And I had just got my license like that year. So I was like, I kind of still I don't want to waste that I just went to school for 2 years for. And yeah, and they responded with something like, what are the other offers before you make anything? Like, don't accept anything. And I'm like, you don't own me. And even my trainer was like, just send them like a sorry, not sorry text, like a message, like just let them know, like you don't have to go back and forth with them, just kind of be like, sorry, but no thanks type thing. And I think my biggest fear about going with AEW as opposed to WWE at first was that, both my trainers work for WWE. Would I have their blessing to go here when I have an offer with the company they work for, and they were both like, it's a much better fit for you, just go for it. So once I got their blessing, I was like 100% peace of mind that I was making the right choice. So it's just like, okay. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so coming up, we're going to hear more about how the alien landed in AEW.
This is AEW Unrestricted. We're talking to the alien, Kris Statlander. Talked a little bit about her background, how she got into wrestling, WWE, and then getting in contact with AEW. So you said you were booked for a dark match, which I think was a tag match. It was you and Swole versus Riho and Britt.
Yeah.
And then I remember you came to training that day because Dustin runs training every Wednesday. And it's like, oh, cool, Stat's here. This is awesome. Great.
Yes.
And then, like, talk us through the day.
Oh, I don't even know. It was weird because I was so used to, like, the big, scary doing extra work for WWE. And AEW wasn't like that at all. And I was just like, oh, I feel like this is, like, a place that's, like, super relaxed. And I guess I was nervous. Like, you always get nervous going into a new setting, but it wasn't like as intimidating because like there's so many people that I knew at AEW from the independents and people that have worked and stuff before. And going to the training, it was training. I mean, like I said, like the training that I'm used to at Creator Pro was a lot different because there's like no girls involved. So not that it's not intense and like informative of what we do with Dustin, but it was just kind of like I didn't know what to expect, so I just went in there open mind, ample body to be thrown around type thing. just go with the flow type thing. And like I had been kind of used to like, not being a big wrestling fan growing up, like I don't get as starstruck with like wrestlers. So I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, I don't know who everybody is all the times. And that's not a good thing. So I feel really bad about it.
I don't either. It's okay.
Yeah, high five. But, I think I've probably seen Dustin before at a WWE Extra Work. And it's cool to hear everyone's thoughts. And like to be able to be like, wow, like I'm working with these people now and they're hearing what I have to say and they're here to help me improve. So it's cool to like, it's just such a cool thing to know that like in such a short amount of time, like I get to be working with such legends sometimes.
Right.
And,
do you go back and look at some of the stuff, like some of the Gold Dust stuff now?
I wish I could say I did. I mean, like, I know I'm aware of a lot of it, and I have people and friends that yell at me all the time from Creator Pro that are just like, she knows nothing. She has no idea. I bet you she walked up to Jericho and was like, hey, how long you been working, kid? And I'm like, I'm not stupid. Like, I know who Jericho is. I know who pretty much everyone that we work with is, but, it's just kind of like I think I was mostly nervous about making a good impression, but then the second I got there, every single person that was there that I knew, like Aubrey, and it was just like, oh yeah, you're pretty much like hired. And I was just like, can I like wrestle first before we make this assumption? Like, I'm terrified. So that's kind of how it was. It was like a very like lax day, even though internally I was just like, I gotta, I have to make a good impression because if this is a company that's interested in me and wants to use me, make a good impression, make them someone that they want to work with. And even though everyone was just like, yeah, you're fine, don't even worry about it. You could literally like vomit in the ring and you'll be hired. And I'm just like,
probably. I would say that's probably correct.
I was just like, okay, we'll see about that.
Well, if you vomit in the ring, it would be a memorable moment.
Yeah, and then I'd have to be hired. So I should have done that. I should have done that.
You didn't have to. It was fine.
Let's talk about working with some of the other women in our division, like Britt and Sheeta, Bea Priestley. You've had matches with each and tag teams, and just talk about some of those. So
what's funny is that pretty much everyone at AEW, besides Penelope, is people and Swole a little bit, is people that I've never gotten a chance to work with ever in the ring. So it's a lot of new experiences for me. So it's really actually very exciting getting to see how your chemistry is with these people and like getting to bond with them and get closer with them, because when you haven't had the chance to do so on the independents. So it's cool how like working for a new company, even though it is a bunch of independent talents that were independent talents at the same time you were, it's still bringing you new stuff. So I had never wrestled in Japan prior to AEW. I haven't really gotten a chance to go international besides Canada. The one time I was supposed to go to England was the day that the Thomas Cook Airlines shut down. So I didn't have a flight. Yeah, my flight got canceled and I couldn't go. So that was a really hard time. Very upsetting, but other opportunities to go international never really just happened because I was so busy in America. But yeah, so getting the chance to work with people like Shida and Riho, it's really cool for me. It's a new experience for me, and it's cool to test your abilities in those new environments with new people and in a new setting too, like doing it all for TV. It really helps you like grow pretty fast as a person, as a performer. So I think it's been challenging, of course, but it's also been extremely fun and extremely rewarding, and it's just nice to have people that want to work well with you.
What would you say is like the biggest difference between wrestling on the indies and wrestling for AEW?
Commercial breaks.
Yes. Oh my God.
I hate them. I hate it.
It's like we're commercial break, but we're not really commercial break.
Yeah, it's like I'm so used to like just like it helped honestly. Yeah, like honestly, TV has definitely helped me like plan out times with like calling matches in my head, but like trying to incorporate a double down or like trying to incorporate like exactly when to time it all out for that commercial break, you're just like, and then when you're in a commercial break, it feels like 10 minutes as opposed to like the 2 minutes that it is. So I'm like, this is the whole match. It has to be in this commercial break. Why is this happening? So it's just that's the biggest struggle, is honestly just trying to plan your match around commercial breaks for me.
When you wrestle so long in the independents, and I don't mean like years and decades on the independents, and then you go and you start wrestling on TV and you start wrestling in front of a lot of different people, there's a lot of things you got to do differently as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not.
I mean, there is.
Yeah.
I try not to like make a big change because I know I got to AEW based on what I was doing on the independents, and
Right.
why would I change what I'm doing for a TV audience when most of the time they don't know who I am, or they're watching because they have seen me do what I can on the independent. So I don't think necessarily there needs to be a thing that changed besides just like pacing of what you do and
Sure.
like knowing
Got
when
it.
to build those things. But I personally am one who believes in there's no such thing as a day off, even if it's in front of 20 people. Like they're here, they're paying their money to see you. Why wouldn't you want to go out there and be the best that you can? You got to practice how you want to perform. And
Hell yeah.
it's like it never made sense to me, people who are like, oh, it's a night off. Like, you're working, you shouldn't have a night off. It's you're going out there to put on the best performance that you can because the people want to see what you can do. And it's just that's laziness to me. And you know, I get it if you're not really trying to get places anymore and you want to have a night off and you've been bumping for 20 years and your bump card's full, go right ahead, take the night off. But like, if someone that I have to work with thinks it's a night off, they're not going to be happy.
You're stiff.
After.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm super stiff. I'm super stiff. I'm super stiff, and I'll make you run. I'll make you run real hard. And I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Oh my God.
Strong style. Strong style.
Strong style.
That's what. So now you've got this great athletic background. You've been in the independents, and now you're in AEW. And I know where it's a quarantine time for many of us. And what's your regimen like these days? Working out. What's your day like?
I usually end up working like 3 to 4 hours a day because I write up my workouts and I'm like, oh, this doesn't seem too bad, but it's like a warm up. Then I have like an Olympic style lift section that I have to work on, and then I have like my bodybuilding section part of my body part that I have to work on, and then I do my like conditioning that I do at the end. So it ends up being like 4 hours and I'm dead. But that's pretty much all I have to do right now. Grocery shopping when I can.
I suddenly feel like I'm slacking.
You are.
I was doing 2 hours a day. Damn it.
I woke up late today and I was gonna try and work out before we did this, but like you probably can't see it, but like this.
Oh my god.
My God, do you always write these out? Have you always done this?
It's something I started doing more recently. Oh wait, that wasn't even the whole. My warm up wasn't in that one.
Oh my god.
So
Okay.
it's like.
That's so long.
I know, and I'm like, oh, this doesn't seem that bad, but like this is I have nothing else to do, so I'm just gonna destroy my body at the gym because I can't do it in a ring all the time.
For people listening to the audio version of this podcast, like check out the video because there's a giant list on Stat's phone.
I'd read it all out to you guys.
We'd be here for like an hour.
I know. It'd be an hour just reading it out, but yeah, there's.
And you type this up on your phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Okay. God. You need an Alexa.
No, I don't.
And she can do the list for you.
No, I don't. My mom has an Alexa. I don't want it.
Okay. I guess that's an old people's thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I like to write it up myself because I'm like accountable for what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can make edits to it and change it as I go if I realize like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely not getting 6 steps of this in. Like I can tone it down a little bit or I can modify it as I go so I can take notes for when I rewrite my workouts for the following week.
Do you save routines and then like redo ones that you've previously liked, or do you just like take stuff from previous ones? Is it always different?
I try to change it up every week, every single body part that I do because I get real bored, and then I also get like real excited because I like look up workout videos all the time on my phone. That's something I've been doing a lot, and I'm like, ooh, I want to incorporate this. I want to incorporate this. I need to do more mobility stuff. Let's put these things in here. And then I try to make a list in my head of all the things that I want to try and incorporate. And I have to plan that out, but still keep the things that I like to do. So I end up changing up my workouts all the time, actually, just to keep it interesting. Yeah. So I only write out my workouts for the week. Like this week, I think on like Monday, I wrote out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then I'll redo it again on like Sunday for the following week of like what body parts I want to work on, what Olympic lifts I want to focus on that day, and conditionings that I got to do. That I'll focus my conditionings based on the body part I'm working.
I'm motivated just hearing all of this. So
I'll help you out.
Yay!
I'm not even a personal trainer. I just have been spending so much time in quarantine just like researching and studying and like trying to self-teach myself that it's just become not a passion of mine because like I get excited writing it up but then doing it I'm like ugh, and then whenever I make my boyfriend do them with me he tells me, he's like, I hate you so much.
Oh yeah.
So I can't help it. I tell everyone all the time, like I would never be a personal trainer because the way my brain works is that there's no off button. So that's why my workouts are 4 hours long, because I just don't have any self-control when it comes to my training, as you guys have heard from what I've done in my previous time.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I get that. It says here that your favorite superhero is Deadpool. Yeah. And I would ask why, but I think pretty much if you listen to this podcast, you know why.
Yeah, that question's kind of been answered.
I think it has.
I'm a big fan of funny.
Yes, you are.
A little bit.
When you paint up before you go out, is there any rhyme or reason to the paint you put on your face, or you just go with it that day?
The colors?
Yeah, the colors.
I usually just try to be a little matchy. Try to be cute.
So whatever your gear looks like that day?
Yeah. See,
hey,
I wanted to like be like, ooh, I'll do like blue when it's like I'm a baby face, or I'll do red when I'm angry, and I'll do black when it's like. Oh. I wanted to do that, but then I would like run out of paint real quick because I'm a baby face all the time.
Well, and then you don't get to switch it up if you just.
I know it's annoying. It's boring, and and on the indies I would change the color I do for my like makeup all the time. So I just would try to make it match, and then it didn't look anything like it. So it's kind of just whatever paint I had with me on certain days. The only one time that like I did something like that made sense. I was at a company called Limitless Wrestling Me and Ashley Vox had feuded for like 2 years almost. The first time we feuded, we had an unsanctioned match. Then we kind of like made amends, and then led to another feud, which was the first ever women's main event of Villainous Wrestling, and their first time streaming live. And it was, I called it a last creature standing because she's like the real catch of fish and I'm an alien.
Yeah.
So that day I dressed in like all black, like ripped jeans. I wore a black crop top, and I did like black makeup and only black face paint. And I was like, I'm dressed for her funeral because I'm going to kill her. So that was the only...
I think I saw that match. Did you guys peel back the canvas and start doing like pile drivers on the wood? Yeah.
I took a destroyer on the exposed board. Yeah.
Definitely seen that one. Awesome match.
Stupid. Yeah. But yeah, that was the only time I really got a chance to like actually take the time and like put a deeper meaning into like why I was dressed like this. Most of the time it's just kind of like, oh, let's just make a match and make it look like it. I am actually somewhat put together for once. And yeah, if you look in that match, I didn't get very good color, but Dustin's always like, oh, you girls would never gig and stuff. But like, Dustin, I've done it 3 times already.
Dustin's the best. Dustin's always telling us like, you don't know.
You don't know. I know. I've done it thrice.
Yeah.
Thrice. That's also one of my favorite words.
It's very apparent that you can work through injuries. You've got a great athletic background. You're very tough, and you've done a lot of great things in your career. Are we going to see Kris Statlander come up with a different move or a different maneuver that we haven't seen before? Are you working on anything?
Well, I have a move that I haven't been allowed to hit yet.
Okay.
As per Kenny's request.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Aubrey knows what it is. I'll tell you, Tony.
Okay.
Because we don't know when I'll be able to hit this move. But my good old area 451 to 450.
Mm-hmm.
I can hit that. Only twice in my life have I ever over-rotated and bashed my face onto the mat.
That's a pretty good track record.
Oh, yeah. Out of all the times that I've done it, only twice. And I've done it a lot. So I'll take it.
I think it'll be interesting when it finally like busts out. I think people are going to be real excited about it.
Yeah.
Because you don't tend to do like the flippy shit. Like even the new like top turnbuckle flip Daniel Bryan-esque thing that you're doing now. Like, I remember I saw you bust it out. I'm like, whoa, she's a tie flyer now.
I know. See, I can always do like high fly things. Like one thing I've never been afraid of is going off the top rope really, because I've done 50-foot high falls in stunts. And the mentality with stunts is kind of like your body knows what it's doing. Don't think about it. Just go. And then you just go and you just don't do it. And then you just do it. And then you're like, oh yeah, my body did know what it was doing. Weird. So that's kind of, it's a blessing and a curse mentality to have for sure, because, you know,
getting hurt.
Yeah, I could get hurt. I probably do hurt a lot more because of it, but hey, I get to do cool things. So yeah, so that's my 450 is one thing I haven't hit yet, but am planning on to eventually. I probably have a lot of moves. I can do a lot of things, but sometimes I feel like not everybody wants to take everything. So I try to be like considerate to them and not force everyone to take all my stupid stuff. Like I drop people on their head for my finish. So
yeah, that's a good one.
That's kind of pushing it already. I like to say. So I have a bunch of things that I can do. I usually try to keep my moveset to things that are exclusively me or like a little bit different, just because that's just how I like to work. I don't like to do the same things that everyone else does, and I like to surprise people because of my size and my stature. People don't always expect me to do the flippy things, or I'm not the biggest person, but I can do a lot of power things, and like so I like to just mix it up as much as I can because it makes it more interesting, and it just proves to people that I have a lot more potential in me than they would ever actually realize.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're very different. You offer a lot of different things. You're just one of like the most interesting people I've met in wrestling.
Absolutely, yeah. You make it interesting to call a match. You make it interesting to know you behind the scenes too. So
thank you.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you for coming on today. This was so great.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. Well, Kris 10, thank you for joining us on AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of AEW. Just a reminder, you can subscribe to AEW Unrestricted for free. Free. Wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Aubrey Edwards.
This is Tony Schiavone.
I'm Tony Schiavone.
No, you're not. What are you doing? Anyway, and Wednesday, tune in to TNT and watch AEW Dynamite, 8 o'clock, 7 Central. This was fun. Kris, you owe me pixie sticks.
I know. I will. I got you.
Awesome. Thanks, girl.